Welcome, everyone. We'll be starting in just a moment. Welcome, everyone. My name is Julie Lindo. I'm the Director of Communications and Health Professional Engagement at SFBay PSR. Thank you for joining us for tonight's event, Building Electrification, New Studies, Advocacy, and How to Electrify Your Home, with Dr. Brett Andrews, Nurse Crystal Lucelle, and CEO of Quick Carbon, Cooper Marcus. Please post a little bit about yourself in the chat. Also, please post questions in the chat throughout the event. Before we start, I want to acknowledge that SFBay PSR is located on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco area. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about San Francisco Bay Physicians for Social Responsibility. SF Bay PSR mobilizes health professionals and advocates to promote policies that support solutions to the intertwined public and environmental health emergencies posed by nuclear weapons and militarism, our accelerating climate crisis, and deep injustices rooted in structural inequity and racism. To learn more about events, resources, and how you can take action and donate, please visit our website at sfbaypsr.org, sign up for our newsletter, events, and action alerts, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about our Building Electrification program. Miguel, please cue my slides. Thank you. The fossil fuel, otherwise known as natural gas by the gas industry, that we burn in our buildings is a major source of air pollution that harms our health and the climate. All electric homes are healthier, safer, more efficient, and help to reduce global warming. Next slide. Our Building Electrification Speakers Bureau works on advocacy with the Bay Area Air District, the California Air Resources Board, other regulatory agencies, and the California legislature. Here you can see a group of white coats at the Bay Area Air District meeting, which Brett will tell you about later. We also produce educational materials that have been vetted by health professionals, and we give presentations to health professional and community groups. We also believe that collaboration is key to building a strong movement and getting the job done. We partner with community energy providers, the Bay Area Clean Air Coalition, which includes many Bay Area nonprofits, the San Francisco Environment Department, and businesses and groups such as Quick Carbon, who's here tonight. Next slide, please. We also have a community partner program to support a just transition. Lower income, underserved, and communities of color are the most impacted by the health harms and inequities of air pollution and gas use in homes. We work to ensure that all communities receive the health and safety benefits of electrification and are not adversely impacted by the transition to all electric buildings. We work with the San Francisco Environment Department, particularly on their Climate Equity Hub, offering advising, participating in outreach to San Francisco environmental justice communities with health information, and also with information about their free water heater installation program for lower income residents. We also work with our friends and colleagues at Bayview Hunters Point Community Advocates. With a grant from San Francisco Environment, we are helping the advocates to install a heat pump system and electric stove at the NABE, where there is a community child care center. And in December, we will celebrate the new electric appliances with a community event at the NABE, and you are all invited. Keep your eyes out for more information. Slide 4, please. We are also working to oppose hydrogen blending for use in homes because it would harm the climate and our health. We're opposing blending of natural gas with hydrogen for use in your gas stove and other appliances, because 99% of hydrogen is made using fossil fuels, because blending it with gas would prolong the use of gas in homes and prolong air pollution, because it's more costly than electrification. It would increase risk of accidents, explosions, and fires. Our aging pipes that deliver natural gas were not made to carry hydrogen, which is more corrosive than natural gas and would cause more leaks. And also, it would contribute to health inequities. Hydrogen production and blending harm EJ communities by increasing air pollution in neighborhoods that are already overburdened with pollution. We also have some big news. A legal action to oppose blending hydrogen pilots in California was just submitted on behalf of the Sierra Club and many other organizations who were represented by Earth Justice. It was filed with the California Public Utilities Commission to dismiss 5 utility pilot projects. And one of those projects was actually proposed to be in dormitories at UC Irvine. Luckily, the students at UC Irvine were able to get that pilot project dismissed. Slide 5, please. And we also have actions that you can take. We're looking for health professionals to join the gas stove health warning label lobby days. There'll be a training on August 5th. On Wednesday, the 7th, there are meetings throughout the day in Sacramento. There are carpool options available. And on Thursday, August 8th, there will be meetings throughout the day online. If you're interested, I will put the link in the chat. Feel free to just sign up. If you're not sure you can go, I recommend signing up, and then when you get more information about it, you can make a decision then. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce, and you can end the slides, Miguel, thank you very much, to introduce Dr. Brett Andrews, SFBay PSR board member. Dr. Andrews is a former associate chief of neurology at Kaiser Permanente, Oakland, and now works part-time there. He focuses primarily on advocacy for climate health policy and presents to physicians and policy leaders in climate health. He is a co-founder of the Neurologists Interested in Climate and Health. Dr. Andrews, I hand the mic to you.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining. I've been enjoying working with physicians, Bay Area Physicians for Social Responsibility on building electrification and reducing the health burdens of air pollution, especially in vulnerable populations. And I'm going to present tonight about the consequences, health consequences of appliances, and then move to some new papers and studies on that subject, and finish with discussing policy changes in California toward electrification. As many of you know, we have a gas infrastructure system in place in California, which dominates our use of appliances in buildings and in our homes. So next slide, please, Miguel. The consequences of combustion are many partial combustion products. If there was pure combustion of methane, and natural gas is, of course, not natural, it's just extracted and refined, and it's methane. And methane would produce carbon dioxide and water alone, but there are many byproducts because of imperfect combustion. And we get nitrogen oxides, nitrogen dioxide primarily, and carbon monoxide, benzene. And other toxic air contaminants, that's a term the California Air Resources Board uses, TACs. As well, these would be including formaldehyde and polyaromatic hydrocarbons. These impose significant health associations that are potentially causing disease and death. In addition to all these health consequences, the climate consequences are profound. In addition to the carbon produced, we're getting, due to the leaking of the infrastructure at the appliance and at the pipe level, large quantities of methane that are contributing more burden in the short term, methane over carbon dioxide by 86 times over 20 years. Next slide, please. The nitrogen dioxide causes multiple health associations and is the lion's share of what has been studied on indoor air and outdoor air from appliances. And asthma, chronic lung disease, cardiovascular disease, including stroke, decreased lung development, poor birth outcomes, and premature death are all associated. And nitrogen dioxide additionally exits into the outdoor environment and mixes with oxygen and other products producing ozone with sunlight, and that's associated with additional disease burden. Carbon monoxide has associations that we know well for large toxicities from malfunctioning units, but we're finding that there are lower level side effects, and some people have chronic fatigue and obtundation from low level carbon dioxide exposure. There's the head of the National Carbon Monoxide Awareness Association, Sharon McNabb, is an athlete who experienced a decline in her function that was dramatic, and they didn't detect until they found that there was a low-level dysfunction, low-level carbon monoxide poisoning in her domicile, and with that elimination, she returned to normal health. Benzene is another major concern. It's associated with lymphomas and leukemias, and there are no safe limits for these that we've really established. So while we have guidelines in California for these contaminants, we have to be more aggressive. And unfortunately, CARB is now working on considering nitrogen dioxide guideline lowering, which will profoundly improve the awareness and action on protecting health. Next slide, please. Stoves in the indoor setting are the only appliances that do not vent directly outdoors, making them the major contributor to indoor air pollution on average. Only a quarter to a third of homes actually use their range hoods to try to mitigate this pollution. And this is mainly an awareness problem. Many homes, especially of low income, don't even have hoods ventilating outdoors. And hoods, even in optimal circumstances, may only be 25 to 75% effective at evacuating these pollutants. Other factors contribute to indoor air that we must be aware of. Outside air pollution is has a profound effect indoors because we have a permeable, even if we have insulated homes, and people are opening their windows to moderate for other reasons, including reducing the burden in the kitchen. So outside and indoor air are not separate, and they mix. Some homes even use ovens for indoor heating due to various circumstances, often in low-income situations. And these multiply the increased health risk. Converting all stoves to zero emission could prevent 20% of childhood asthma in California, based on this study that came out this year by Grunwald. Next slide, please. So gas appliances in the outdoor environment are a major contributor to California's burden of nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen oxide pollution is about equal to all electricity production in nitrogen pollution, nitrogen dioxide, and about 2/3 of the passenger car burden. Converting to zero emission building appliances in California could result in substantial reductions in death, 354 cases based on Jew's UCLA group review in 2020, and 596 fewer acute and 304 fewer chronic bronchitis cases annually, with many billions in health reductions of expense and increased quality of life. These benefits are only calculated that I've just quoted for the outdoor air pollution portion. And if indoor air pollution was included, clearly there would be significantly higher benefits. Next slide, please. So we have vulnerable populations. We know that children are more vulnerable to air pollution, indoor and outdoor, because they have higher breathing rates, they have increased physical activity, and they have a larger surface area to body weight. As well, their lungs and the immune systems are immature. Next slide, please. Air pollution is a social determinant of health, and disproportionately affects people of color and lower income. Redlining and other regressive policies have forced populations to live near sources of increased pollution like freeways, plants, ports, dumps, etc. Crystal Lucelle is going to go over this and also ways to mitigate that risk in the indoor setting. Next slide, please. So recent studies. The team at Stanford, led by Rod Jackson, has found multiple important connections on the health associations of stoves. And a recent paper in 2023 showed that there were significantly higher benzene levels than were previously thought, emitting from fossil fuel burning in stoves, propane, and natural methane gas. That were in the 2.8 to 6.5 microgram per minute range. These levels can be detected in rooms away from the kitchen, including distant bedrooms. And standard electric stoves emit far fewer levels of this benzene, while induction stoves emit none in cooking in this study. Next slide, please. Also, they found health disparities associated with increased nitrogen dioxide exposure due to demographics. So small homes versus large homes, in this case, 800 versus 300 or 3,000 square feet, had 4 times the nitrogen exposures on average. And nitrogen dioxide exposures from cooking were exceeding EPA and World Health Organization guidelines at 100 parts per billion per hour in many homes. And in some homes, even this is reaching the distant bedrooms. Levels varied based on ventilation, volume of gas burners, and the height of the burners, oven use, etc., and duration. But it was clear that BIPOC families have increased exposure versus the national average. Native Americans, 60% higher, and Black and Latino or Latinx at 20%. Next slide, please. This is a detailed slide, but basic idea is on the left is a smaller home, the 2 diagrams, and the 2 diagrams on the right is a larger home. And the upper boxes are kitchen, and the lower boxes are bedrooms distant to the kitchen. And the basic idea here is that there's a red line, which is the recommended exposure limits at 100 for nitrogen dioxide. Running a burner and an oven, burner on high, oven at 350 degrees without a hood, for an hour generated 4 times the recommended limit for both situations. But in the smaller home, the high levels persisted in the kitchen and in some of the homes, as in these 2 examples, in the distant bedroom. However, on the left, you see that the curve does not drop below the red. So that persistent high level is being produced for potentially children in a distant bedroom. Whereas in the large home, it drops off rapidly after that white portion, which is where the appliances are on. Next slide, please. So now moving out toward the larger policy space, zero emission appliances are coming to California. Obviously, we had great success last year with Bay Area Air Quality Management District voting this in. However, if you look at these 2 graphs, basically what this is showing is the housing stock in different parts of the country by state, and California way over on the right for water heaters in the upper diagram is way low at 19% versus the average of 46%, and Florida with over 80% electric appliances for water heating. Whereas for heat pumps for furnaces and central heating, California, again, way down at the bottom at 3% electric versus some southern states like South Carolina at 40%, an average of 13%. So we have a long way to go, and we know it, and we're trying to move toward that. Next slide, please. Bay Area Air Quality Management District last March voted for water heaters, and that was the picture that Julie was showing at the beginning. Many of our team and other allies came and spoke in support of this rules change, and they voted to require transition in any new appliances for water heating and space heating be a zero emission, and that implies basically electric. For water heaters, that will start in January 2027 and be phased in with larger capacity units for larger buildings. The same for furnaces starting in January of 2029. Again, these rules only apply for new appliances. No retrofitting will be required. Next slide, please. Great news just last month. The South Coast similarly passed new rules that will not only affect new appliances, but require retrofits of some older homes. And basically, they're also requiring not just water heaters and space heaters, but cooking, dryers, and pool heaters. So it's a much broader, and they will be phasing that in over the coming few years. Next slide, please. Finally, good news is CARB is considering doing this on the statewide level, and I've had the pleasure of being active in this space, and a coalition is working along with PSR to advise on building electrification considerations and justice considerations. The timeline is that hopefully there will be a vote after the plan is fully established next year or possibly in 2026. Next slide, please. In their health analysis, CARB looks at the emissions from air basins, large regions, and assesses the health benefits. And there are many ways to look at the health analysis, but this is what method they've been using currently. And we're hoping to advocate over time to take a closer look at disadvantaged communities and tailor the considerations of health benefits more carefully and with more detail. Next slide, please. Clearly, this transition, if it is voted in, will be a complex balance, because clearly the benefits for disadvantaged communities who are disproportionately burdened by these pollutants will also be the most vulnerable economically, or potential displacement if they're renters, and challenges if they have very high electric bills transitioning from gas to electric. So there have to be many players in place to make this a just transition. That's it for my slides, and I'm going to yield the floor to Crystal Lucelle, who's going to talk about justice disparities. Thanks.
Thank you, Brett. So I do have an announcement. Our nurse fellow, Crystal Lucelle, was pulled into an organ transplant surgery today, which is obviously way more important than being here. So she kindly recorded her presentation, which we will present to you in a moment. I just want to give you a brief bio. Nurse Crystal Lucelle is SFA PSR and Alliance of Nurses for Healthy Environment and the Alliance for Nurses for Healthy Environments Fellow. And she has spent over a decade serving as a bilingual, bicultural public health nurse for the Latinx community within San Francisco Bay Area. She was born and raised in Southern California to Mexican immigrants. She obtained her Master in Public Health from Loma Linda University and a Master of Science from UCSF School of Nursing. She has been a certified diabetes care and education specialist and the health and wellness nurse coach since 2019, and she currently serves on the National Board of Directors of the National Association of Hispanic Nurses and co-chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. In her current role, she works at UCSF as a clinical research nurse for the study of co-transplantation of parathyroid and islet cells for insulin independence of patients with type 1 diabetes, which is absolutely amazing. So now I will play her recording.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the talk. My name is Crystal, and I'll be presenting on health disparities within indoor air quality. I'm a nurse, and I am the Alliance of Nurses for a Healthy Environment Nurse Fellow for the 23-24 year. And I'm working with the San Francisco Bay Area Physicians for Social Responsibility group on indoor air quality projects and focusing on community outreach and education. I wanted to give you a definition from which to work from when thinking about indoor air quality. Health disparities in indoor air quality refer to the unequal burden of exposure to harmful air pollutants and the associated adverse health outcomes experienced by different population groups as influenced by factors such as socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, geography, and access to resources. And in this talk, we're mostly referring to communities of color, so African American, Latino, Hispanic, Native American communities that tend to be the most affected by health disparities within indoor air quality. So the reason we're addressing health disparities within indoor air quality is because working on the disparities can help improve the quality of life for our community. It can reduce disease burden, prevent chronic conditions, lower healthcare costs, increase productivity of our community members when they don't have to miss work for an asthma exacerbation, better educational outcomes. People learn better when the air is clean, reducing overall pollution in our community for everyone, improving housing standards, and moving towards social justice and equity. We'll start with the larger environment. Climate change disproportionately affects minority communities. It exacerbates the existing health disparities in relationship to air quality. One of those things, for example, is asthma. Children and adults with asthma tend to be more overweight because of the challenges they have in exercising. So when the air quality is very poor, that's one day that they cannot be outside to exercise or walk. Lack of green space also contributes to higher levels of air pollution, which also reduces opportunities for physical activity. Urban heat islands increase the risk of heat-related illnesses and amplify the effects of air pollution. When it's hotter, the air pollution is felt more. Minority communities also tend to use public transportation more, which affects people because they're exposed more to traffic emissions. African American and Hispanic communities are disproportionately affected by the higher levels of air pollution when it comes to particulate matter and ozone air. And then minority communities tend to get all of the waste facilities, industrial manufacturing facilities placed in their neighborhoods. And so the local environment, even around the home, is where the disparities start. Zooming into the home environment, we want to acknowledge that practices like red line zoning in the early 1800s have contributed to health disparities. This meant that people of color were not able to get loans in nicer neighborhoods. And so they were forced to get homes in areas that may have had more factories, refineries, industrial or hazardous waste facilities. And so they were exposed to those toxins and pollutants more than people in white neighborhoods. People of color tend to live in more older and substandard housing because of the cost of living. This increases the risk to pollution. And one of those things can be lead paint in older homes, which leads to poor indoor air quality. I worked as a public health nurse for San Mateo County, and one of my roles was to do developmental assessments in children. And when children weren't reaching their milestones, we often had them complete blood work to check for lead poisoning. And because children tend to be smaller, don't have the organs developed to remove toxins, they're able to develop lead poisoning more quickly than adults do. Overcrowding and ventilation is more common in communities of color. And with poor ventilation comes increased pollutant concentration, as well as the presence of mold. Overcrowded housing is more prevalent to minority communities. In my work as a public health nurse and as a diabetes educator at San Francisco General, I often witnessed patients living multiple families in a one-bedroom apartment, where maybe a couple families would be in the bedroom, a couple families in the living room, and they would take turns cooking and using the restroom facilities. And it's difficult in San Francisco to live in a home without mold, even when you're not in a crowded housing. But you can imagine what it would be like when there's 5-10 people living in a one-bedroom home, needing to take showers, needing to cook. And that would be your constant daily experience. Focusing on healthcare, as I'm sure many of you know and have worked with health disparities with regards to environmental health in your patients have seen, minorities have less access to healthcare, which means that they might not get the appropriate diagnosis and treatment in time to improve their health or prevent a chronic disease from developing. Children, for example, in African American and Hispanic communities are diagnosed at higher rates of asthma and have a higher frequency of hospitalizations in relationship to asthma due to poor indoor air quality. We know that minorities tend to die at a rate 7.6 times higher than their white counterparts from asthma-related complications. Exposure to air pollution is also linked to high rates of cardiovascular disease. And we're also learning that this can also affect neurological health, cognition, things like stroke are also affected by air pollution. Environmental pollutants are also linked to increased rates of mental health in minority communities. And we're seeing more research related to this. Pregnant people in minority communities are at risk for adverse birth outcomes such as preterm birth, low birth weight because of air pollution. And minority communities also face higher rates of heat-related mortality and complications due to the compounding effects of air pollution and heat from worsening climate change. In regards to public health and education, there's often inadequate air quality monitoring in minority communities, which leads to underreporting of pollution levels. And if we don't have data, we're not able to address the problem, and we're not able to advocate for our community to our elected officials. There's not a lot of targeted education or awareness programs about air quality and environmental health in minority communities. One of the things that we are doing as an organization through PSR is doing more outreach and education. So if you're interested in joining those efforts, please let us know. And the research is lacking in minority communities regarding environmental health and health impacts. Minorities are often left out of research efforts. And so we don't have the data to help policymakers create policies that help our communities of color. When it comes to economics, there are a lot of barriers preventing minority communities from moving into areas with better air quality. One of those is still the historical effects of redlining, which means that those minorities tend to stay in areas that perpetuate exposure to the environmental hazards. Minority workers are also more likely to be employed in jobs with high exposure to air pollutants, such as construction, manufacturing, factory work, agriculture. They're also exposed to higher levels of chemicals because of industrial and agricultural activities. And minorities are also more likely to live in areas where there are industrial sites, landfills, hazardous waste facilities, which expose them to these harmful pollutants. Looking at the political environment, when we're looking at that social determinants of health pie, one of those slices is politics. We have federal regulations in place like the Clean Air Act, but they're not always enforced equally, which lead to health disparities in air quality. Transportation policies do not consider environmental justice and can exacerbate air quality disparities in minorities. The lack of stringent enforcement in environmental regulations also contributes to ongoing exposure to poor air quality. And minority communities often face the cumulative environmental stressors, including air pollution, which can lead to chronic conditions. One of the key US policies that focuses on air quality is the Clean Air Act that set the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, or NAAQS. The agency rules involved were the EPA, HUD, the Department of Housing, and implementation of NAAQS reduced national air pollution levels by 78% between 1970 and 2020. And thanks to former President Nixon, who signed this bill in 1970, we have improved our air quality. So as we end this presentation, my call to action to you is to try to do any number of these activities listed. The simplest one I can say is to join PSR. We do some great works. We have some community outreach events coming up. We have a lot of webinars where you can learn more. So that's one easy way to start. And my second favorite one is to go to vote-er.org and get your Vote ER QR badge. It looks like this. and it's meant for healthcare workers to wear on the back of their badge. Patients can scan the QR code and register to vote if they're eligible. And we know that communities of color tend to vote for healthcare policies that benefit the community, and we want to make sure that they have that opportunity to do so. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. Here are just a few of the references that were used during this presentation. And finally, I just want to say thank you for your time and attention, for coming to this presentation, to the PSR team for giving me this opportunity to share. And if you'd like to reach out to me, my contact information below is just my email, crystal.lucell@ucsf.org. Thank you.
I have to say, it's almost as if she was here. It was great. Thank you so much, Crystal from far away, and hopefully the transplant went well today. Next, it is my honor to introduce Cooper Marcus, who is Chief Quitter and CEO of Quit Carbon. He believes that society's move away from fossil fuel presents an incredible opportunity to respond to the climate crisis while improving the quality of life for homeowners, renters, and small businesses. Many of us have worked with Cooper in many different venues and through different meetings and whatnot. And so it's a pleasure to welcome you here tonight, Cooper.
Thank you.
I hand the mic to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Cooper, and I'm excited to be joined by my colleague, Ted, who will be helping out here in the chat. Let me get my slides up here, just confirming you all can see my screen. Somebody give me a thumbs up on the camera, or yes, wonderful. Okay, hi. I'm Cooper. I'm the Chief Quitter here at Quit Carbon. We're a mission-driven company. We're based in San Francisco. I'm born and raised here. We serve all of California, with other states coming soon. And we exist to accelerate the transition of our homes away from fossil fuels. And the way we do it is by providing free, friendly, expert analysis, advice, referrals to contractors, rebate optimization, and much, much more. And today I'll be speaking a little bit with you about how we go about transitioning our homes and why. So let's dive in. I've got way more slides than I've got time for, so forgive me if I go quickly, but I've posted in the chat a link to where you can check these out and many more. So what are we going to talk about? Why we're here, how electrification is both climate and health action, who we are, and what happens next. So let's be clear, the single best way that any one of us take individual action against climate change, and also for the positive health outcomes of our families and our communities, in addition to going to work as a healthcare professional like many of you are, is by getting fossil fuel out of our homes and out of our vehicles. Recycling plastic is nice. Getting a gas water heater out of your home is vastly more impactful. And this is because our homes are a pretty important part of the climate problem. You'll see here that 41% slice, this is data from San Francisco, is buildings emitting greenhouse gases. And surprising to many people, only 3% of that comes from the electricity that those buildings are using. A lot of people think that electricity isn't that dirty. Not anymore, not here in California. Our power system has made great progress in reducing its greenhouse gases, but our homes have not. And within our homes, another surprise, it's your water heater. It's more your water heater than anything else. You might touch your stove every day, and certainly we've heard a bit about the dangerous health impacts of gas stoves, but that isn't the thing when it comes to the climate impact. And these appliances are causing a climate impact whether or not they're on, because they're leaking methane all the way through the gas drilling and delivery system. And methane is hugely impactful to climate change, causing something like 1/3 of our total global warming is caused by methane, not by carbon dioxide pollution. Now, we've heard a little bit, and I'll summarize here in a couple of graphics, that gas appliances in homes are emitting more NOx pollution than all of our cars. Folks tend to think, well, aren't cars dirty? Again, not anymore. At the state regulatory level, we've had tremendous progress on cleaning up automobile emissions and not nearly enough progress on cleaning up emissions from each of our homes. And same with the power system and power plants. We think that power plants are the source of NOx. Nope, it's coming from our homes and our buildings. It's up to us. We've heard a bit about how gas stoves produce really hazardous levels of indoor air quality. I'll skip right past this one. Maybe you'll be motivated by the fact that the gas industry is using the same shifty marketing tactics that the tobacco industry has used, whether it's front groups and astroturfing or preempting local health efforts like they've done in Berkeley and other places. The gas industry is using the same playbook as the tobacco industry. And as we've seen previously, the pollution that you get inside your home is pretty darn similar to the pollution that comes from cigarette smoke. So what do we do about it? We electrify everything. We get to a sustainable and healthy future where wind and sun and other zero carbon electricity sources power all of our energy needs. We get savings in energy costs. We get cleaner air, cleaner water. We get healthier people and a stronger economy. The electrified world of the future is one that's wealthier, where people have more in their lives than in the fossil fuel world. Now, it's good news that electricity generation, or the source of the different ways of making electricity, wind and solar are now the cheapest. You could see there those two white lines. We've seen dramatic cost decreases in generating electricity from these no carbon sources. Sometimes folks ask me about nuclear. Think what you want about it, but note here, it's the only source of energy that's getting more expensive. It is unlikely to have a major role in our future. And electricity also gets cleaner. Pretty amazing. The yellow line shows how much electricity is being generated since 2000. Folks tend to think that we're using a lot more electricity, but actually electricity demand growth has been quite low over the past couple decades. But the carbon production from producing all that electricity has fallen dramatically. It's getting cleaner, which is pretty fantastic. So where does all this pollution come from in our homes? Well, some of it comes from our electricity. If you're using dirty electricity, it certainly comes from your furnace and your water heater and your car. These numbers are a little different than the numbers we saw in the slide previously, because these are nationwide averages rather than San Francisco or California data. But when you move to clean electricity and clean electric appliances, you get 0 tons a year of carbon pollution, of methane pollution, of other harmful pollutants that are bad for our health and bad for our planet. So let's have a quick comparison here. Again, these are averages across the US, so they may not exactly apply. A typical household might emit 15 to 30 tons of CO2 equivalent per year and spend $7,200 on energy. Now, if you switch that home to being fully electrified, we've got an electric car in the driveway, but we're still using the same sort of energy sources. We're still emitting quite a bit of pollution, but we're saving some money. And now you switch all the way over to renewable electricity, which luckily many of us already have, and it's an easy and basically free switch. And now you're saving money and the climate. So how are we going to do this? Well, you're going to clean up your electricity supply, which I'm going to skip right past. We're going to electrify your home, which I'll mostly talk about. You'll electrify your transportation, maybe with an EV or an e-bike. And then, and this is part of why we're here talking with one another in this community, we're going to electrify everyone. But let's just zoom in a second here. What do we mean by electrification again? Well, mostly we mean these things with the pink arrows, right? We mean water heating, clothes drying, space heating and cooling, cooking, maybe an electric vehicle, and purchasing renewable energy. The purchasing of renewable energy, I'll just touch on it briefly. most of us, I think all of us, probably you're all Bay Area folks, have an option of having 100% green electricity from your electricity supplier. And sometimes that option is cheaper than the less clean electricity. If you haven't already switched, I urge you to switch tomorrow or tonight, right after this call. It's very quick and it costs nothing and it can make a big difference. But let's talk about the rest of the things. Well, what do we mean? We mean switching a gas furnace to a heat pump that provides heating and cooling using clean and safe electricity. We mean switching a gas water heater to a heat pump water heater. Bernie Sanders, he's a big fan. We mean switching that dangerous gas stove to an amazing induction stove, which is not only much safer, but it's also just better. It heats up faster. It's incredible to cook on induction. It also means things like switching your gas dryer for maybe a heat pump dryer or an all-in-one washer dryer that's powered by electricity. That big black thing is a heat pump pool heater. If you're lucky enough to have a pool, I hope you're considerate enough to heat it with electricity. Maybe you'll get an all-electric fireplace. They're incredibly realistic. The new modern ones, you cannot tell the difference unless you get very up close. And that's an EV charger there up on the side. Now, I often get asked, oh yeah, clean energy upgrades. I got solar, right? That's great. I'm so happy that you got solar. But let's just be clear that solar batteries, when we're talking about electrifying, when we're talking about delivering good health outcomes and good climate outcomes, solar and batteries aren't always usually the thing. And this can be very surprising to folks. You know, our electricity supply in California is already very clean. If you add solar to your home, you will be producing more solar electricity at just the same time of day that everybody else is producing solar electricity. It's not unusual now that 100% of the power in California is coming from zero carbon sources on sunny days because there's now so much solar. We've also changed the rules about how solar gets compensated in residential homes, and it works out better if you use the electricity you generate rather than giving it back to the grid. Well, a great way to use more homegrown electricity is to get your appliances off of gas and onto electricity. And then let's also consider what happens. Maybe you get solar. You're like, great, I'm making progress here. But let's go back to our little chart there. That gas water heater, it's still in your closet, burning away, contributing to that 35% slice of greenhouse gas emissions from building operations. If everybody had solar, if there was even more solar and batteries, sure, that little 3% slice would get a little smaller, but that 35% slice would stay just as large. So one interesting thing that might surprise you is that solar and batteries really don't mean affordable, meaningful decarbonization. Now, a couple of caveats. This is true in California, not so much in other states. And solar and batteries can be a good investment, especially after you get your home off of gas. But they're a financial thing, much more than a climate thing. Now, a few more surprises for you as we go here. The old-fashioned way is Jimmy Carter's way. He pulls on a cardigan and he turns down the thermostat and he says, we're going to have to sacrifice to do better, right? We have a new reality. Electric homes are more comfortable, they're more valuable, they're cheaper to operate in the long run, and they're safer for our families and our communities and our climate. We get paid and we benefit by fighting climate change and fighting the health hazards of burning fossil fuels, rather than having to sacrifice. This isn't a trade-off. This is a win, win, win. I don't know, there's a lot of wins. Another surprising thing, and this was a hard lesson for me to learn, especially growing up in a household where my mom grew up in the war, in World War II, outside of London, and she had to use everything. They used everything up all the time and taught me that as a kid. But when it comes to gas appliances, it is always better to replace them promptly rather than use them up. I mean, when we have a harmful medication or a faulty device, we don't keep using it. We replace it with a non-harmful thing. That's where we are with gas appliances. We talk a bit more about this on our website. I've got a link there you could click on later. And I hope you keep that in mind and try to change the way you think about using something up. When it comes to gas appliances, there is no climate benefit to using them up. Now, going from that thought to this next one, early electrification. By early, I mean electrifying things before they're finished, right? Before they're at the very end of their life. It means switching your currently functioning heater to a heat pump rather than waiting another decade or 2 or 3 for it to reach the end of its natural life. The earlier you do it, the better, for a few reasons. One reason is that it develops the market. The market for heat pumps and other electric solutions right now is much too small. As you buy, as we each make our individual purchase decisions, it pulls demand from the market. It signals the market to make more of these things, sell more of these things, which is exactly what we want the market to do. It also reduces the consumption of gas, which hastens the demise of the gas network. We need all those gas pipes to go away. And one great way to have them go away is to use them less. It also really expands the realm of the possible. You heard earlier about the BACMUD, Bay Area Air Quality Management District, proceeding that should result in the ban on the sale of fossil fuel water heaters and space heaters. That wouldn't be possible, and it may still be delayed unless there's lots of people buying lots of heat pumps. And it shows to the policymakers, hey, this isn't some crazy fringe thing, it's becoming mainstream. And then finally, you and me and our communities who are adopting these solutions become powerful voices. We all need each of us to be saying to our friends and colleagues and neighbors, I got off gas, and it's great, because that is the single most powerful factor in causing more folks to electrify. Now, if you will, allow me to introduce Quick Carbon. Hello, we're Quick Carbon. Here's what we do. And just to remind you what I said earlier, we are a free, friendly expert analysis, advice, service. We figure out the rebates. We help you meet great contractors. We're holding your hand all the way through your journey of getting off of fossil fuel. Whether you're thinking about doing a project, whether you've just done one and wondering if you got the right rebates, whether you're just wondering how this is all going to go in your home, we help you all the way along the journey. We're a new type of company. It's kind of hard to compare us to anything else, but maybe you could think of us as like, gosh, I don't know, the old-fashioned travel agent that would sit down with you and they had a computer in front of them that was green screen, complicated, but they had some expertise and they knew how to navigate all these things, and they helped you have a terrific vacation, a terrific journey. We're going to make sure you have a terrific journey off of fossil fuel. The way it's going to work, we're going to do some assessment, we're going to optimize the plan, and we're going to help you upgrade. First, you're going to come to our website and tell us a bit about your home and your utility usage and your appliances. You could talk to our friendly expert planners, including Ted. Ted's here helping you all out already, right there in the chat. Then we're going to generate some optimized plans. We're going to help you understand how your home's using energy and help you see what these upcoming projects are going to be like, see what you're going to save, and help you understand all the rebates and incentives, which are fiendishly complicated unless you get our help. And then when it's time, when you decide it's time, we'll help you meet a great local contractor and get the work done at a fair price with the right scope of work. This three-step process of advice and maximizing the savings and helping you get to a completed project, people love it. We serve over 4,000 homes across California, and we get incredible reviews from our homeowners and our contractor partners. People love working with us. We've won lots of awards and validation, including 2 big prizes from the US Department of Energy. We're the first in the country service of our type to earn the Energy Star Partner designation. You've seen Energy Star on stoves and water heaters and computers. Well, Energy Star is on Quick Carbon. We also I serve on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's implementation working group. We are a for-profit corporation, but we're very mission oriented. In May, we received public benefit corporation designation, and later this year we'll become a certified B corporation. We have lots of nonprofit, community, utility, and government partners and friends, including the City of San Francisco and San Francisco Bay Physicians for Social Responsibility, of course. So we ask, will you quit? Will you quit with us? Let's do this together. Where do you start? Well, you come on over to Quit Carbon, click the pink button, and let's get going. And then we hope soon you'll consider making an upgrade. Get something off of fossil fuels in your home, even if it's something small. You could just buy an electric induction cooktop at IKEA. They cost $60 and they right away let you cook with a lot less gas. And then share the joy, share the news, tell your friends and neighbors, tell your communities, do presentations, whatever it is, invite us to presentations. We need to get the word out there. You know, just like family practice physicians do their best work when they have ongoing relationships with patients, we'd like to have an ongoing relationship with you. Rather than hearing from you first, when your water heater is leaking water all over your garage floor, we'd much prefer to hear from you sooner so that we can help you with the benefit of time. So thank you, appreciate the time. I see a bunch of questions in the chat that Ted's been answering there. I think folks can, how are we going to do this? Julie, folks will raise their hands.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper, because you are the appliance doctor now. I think I have to call you the appliance doctor. If you stop sharing, I think that would be nice, because then we can see others' faces.
There we go.
If people are comfortable, please feel free to come off camera and raise your hand if you want to ask questions verbally, and you can also keep posting questions in the chat. And we're going to stay another, we'll stay another 10 minutes or so until we answer all your questions, because that is the promise of this evening.
Great. I see a question there from Mike about induction stoves that plug into normal 120 volt electricity. There was reduce the cost of wiring in your kitchen. That's true. They exist. We help people get them. There's two different options. We'd love to tell you more. Ted, maybe you could post a link to our help article about those options. And we can also, when you come to Quit Carbon and click the pink button, we can help you decide whether they're the right option for your home. Those particular stoves cost more for the stove, but save you money on electricity. Different folks, save you money on wiring and also a little bit on electricity. We'll help you decide if different folks, those are right for you. So I see some questions about using what happens to old gas appliances. Yes, gas appliances get recycled. They're metal. It's very easy and very economical to recycle. They get recycled at over 99%. None of them end up in landfills. There's also mention of losing the remaining life of the gas appliance. Well, gas appliances are dangerous. It's kind of like saying, well, I've got some, moldy food. Should I throw it out or should I keep eating it? Well, it's going to start to be dangerous and maybe it's time to replace it. We didn't know that at first. Look, I mean, decades ago, we kind of thought gas was the thing. Now we know it's definitely not. So let's see, who has a question they want to ask verbally?
Cooper, there's also a question in the chat. How is it possible that we're using less and less electricity if we're transitioning to using more electricity, electrifying our homes? Can you explain?
We are using more electricity. It's the chart I showed that had us using less electricity is partially a result of efficiency. You might remember we used to have incandescent light bulbs, right? They would get very hot. And now we have LED light bulbs. They don't have all that waste heat. They use much less energy to produce the same amount of light. Those sort of efficiency gains are happening in virtually all aspects of electric appliances, allowing us to use more electric things while we use less or flat amount of electricity. Now, in the future, our use of electricity will grow inevitably. The benefits of efficiency gains will only take us so far. especially as we transition all of our vehicles to electricity. But that's fine. Electricity growth is a thing that all of the utility folks know is happening, and they're working hard on it. My job before this was at PG&E. PG&E is full of smart people who know exactly what's coming and are definitely making sure that we will have electricity, plenty of it, forever, just like we've had plenty of it in the past.
There's another question in the chat, but before I get to that, I just wanted to also add that we always advocate that, as you mentioned briefly, Cooper, that you can get an electric tea kettle, an air fryer, a Instapot, that there are a lot of appliances one can use in one's kitchen to reduce the use of your gas stove. And there are a lot of smaller options now becoming available, such as mini splits. And Cooper, could you explain to people what mini splits are? Because I think a lot of people think they have to replace their entire heating system, and they don't know that they could start by putting a mini split into their main room.
That's right. Mini split is a heat pump that heats and cools one room or maybe a couple of adjacent rooms. It uses clean and safe electricity. They're quiet, they're comfortable, they heat and cool. Folks have seen them and perhaps thought, oh, that's an air conditioner, but they also heat. And it's a great way to start moving your home off of fossil fuels. When you get one of those, you don't necessarily have to get rid of your fossil fuel heater. You might choose to do so because of the benefits of rebates and incentives, or you might not. I do want to mention something about the rebates and incentives. They're all over the place. And I would advise you against chasing them. They come, they go, they come back. They are a means to an end, but they are not the end. So if you hear that there was a bigger rebate and now there's a smaller one, I really hope that you don't let that dissuade you from making a change. You're going to make a change when the time is right for you. There might be a rebate, there might not. If there is, sometimes the contractors raise their prices a little bit and you end up not really, what you pay in the end ends up being kind of similar. But mini splits are a great option and of course very popular in many parts of the world.
I don't know if you may have already answered David Cole's question about life cycle assessments on electrification.
That possibly, this is a life cycle, right? I think what he's talking about is the life cycle assessment on the appliances. Is it that particular life cycle? And we do talk a little bit about that on our website. I posted the link, I could post it there too. There is no analysis that's showing that electrification of homes is a bad idea, with one limited exception, which I do want to call out, right? Even in places where all of the electricity comes from burning coal, it is still better for the climate to switch your fossil fuel appliance to an electric appliance. I know it's hard to contemplate this, but the way the efficiency gains of heat pumps work out, you do better by the climate by switching from gas to electric appliances, even if your electricity supply is dirty. Here in California, our electricity supply is incredibly clean, so it's even better. The one slightly challenging place is for folks who are lower income. Their utility bills can go up a little in the short term, depending on how this work is done. If this work is done in not the right way, it's possible they pay a little more. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, that is not a good thing. This is a failure of our regulators. The regulators should not allow this to happen. Electricity and gas prices and the programs for low, moderate income people should be arranged so that doing the right thing by the climate doesn't incur a financial penalty on your utility bills. But we're not quite there yet for some folks. Working with Quick Carbon, though, is a great way to help you get there because we'll help make sure that the changes are made of the right type in the right order to minimize the near-term bill impacts. And in the long term, electric homes are much cheaper to operate than gas homes.
Does anybody have questions about your home, your own
yes.
home? The great
or celebrations.
Yeah.
Cynthia, can you come off of mute and tell us how much you love your heat pump?
Sure. I love my heat pump. Right. Our old furnace was very noisy and fluctuated a lot. That, you know, you'd set it at 70 or 68 and it would be 67 and you're cold, and then 69 or 70 and you're hot, and we're constantly changing. And this is just so much quieter and smoother. And the whole house just feels more comfortable, and it's much more efficient. I think our old air conditioner, which we bought 15 years ago, and they told us not to get a SEER 8. They said, oh, you don't need that. Get a 4 or a 6. That's way over. Well, now the new one is 20. You can't even buy equivalent from the heat pump. So it really hasn't increased our electric bill. And once we get our solar back going, we should be in great shape. We also have a
That's
heat
right.
pump air dryer, which works great.
Wonderful.
And yeah, so it's all, and just put in a new induction range, but I haven't learned how to cook with it yet. I burn things because it cooks too fast.
Too fast. It definitely does. When I started cooking on induction, I burnt a lot of things. I'd walk away. I'm waiting for the pan to heat up. No, it's already hot. Don't walk away.
But I'll get there. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to share their experience electrifying part of their home? I know some of you have done it recently.
I think we shared it in the chat, but we with Quick Carbon electrified our whole home, and it was fantastic, and it's great. We love our heat pump too, and we live in San Francisco, and amazingly we've used the air conditioning, which of course we never had air conditioning before, so that's was a real bonus because it's only getting hotter. And yeah, it just we have the dryer, the heat pump dryer, and I also put clothes out on if we've had such warm weather, I've been drying them just outside using solar power, but which is also an option for people. Anyway, it was really great. And actually, to tell you the truth, Cooper, when I was looking at your slides, I was like, oh wow, this is really good. We did this. So.
Right? Doesn't it feel good? It feels so good. I see Mary has her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, this is Mary Williams, and I have been cooking on induction, I think, for, I don't know, 10 years now. I had an early induction stove that I'm living with in our apartment in the city, and then I have a newer one at our coastal house, and I love to cook, and induction is just wonderful. I'm such an advocate of induction cooking. You really control what you're doing so perfectly. It's hot when you want it hot. It's cool when you want it cool. It's a great way to cook. You have to know like many stoves, you got to know your burners, you got to know your pots, so there is a learning curve, but once you do that, it's great.
Wonderful.
And I just
What
want
a joy to hear that.
We couldn't afford an induction stove, Cooper, but we use Quick Carbon. Thank you so much, to get a plain old electric. And the new electric stoves are so much better than what we grew up with or what we knew in the past. And I just want to say we're very happy with it. So, you know, and it was what, $700 for the electric stove. So that's another option. Or getting, as you mentioned, you know, just an induction cooktop, the little $60 cooktop that you can use. I think Brett raised his hand.
Yeah. Well, last summer I got space and water heating, and I wish I'd used Quick Carbon because I went straight to a contractor, and it wasn't the smoothest, but in the end, I'm really pleased with it. And one thing I wanted to just put out there, Cooper, you may want to respond to. I added a whole house fan, which is great for us in reducing our electricity use, because we're running that when it cools down in the evening. Our house stays hot unless we got some air coming from the outside, and it pulls all that air and blows out the hot air in our attic and rapidly cools our house, so we don't have to use the air conditioning as much.
Sure. Some people have had good luck with whole house fans. There are certainly some HVAC contractors that are not a fan of whole house fans. In particular, they bring the outside air in. And if you have lower quality outside air, that may not be a thing you want. So it depends. They can be an option. I'm glad you're having a good experience with one. That's great to hear.
Any more questions?
I posted a link to our article on the plug-in induction cooktops. I just was eating my dinner earlier, cooked on an IKEA induction cooktop. We don't have an induction stove yet. I know it's embarrassing. We have a gas stove, but like many people, we're on a journey in my house, and our plan to replace our stove is coming up soon. It just hadn't happened yet. But hey, we were able to reduce our fossil fuel combustion inside our home by getting one of these plug-in cooktops. We love it.
Any more questions? We are past time. So
Thank you.
Last call for questions, and we'll wrap it up. And no, I see some claps. Thank you. Thank you so much to our speakers, Dr. Brett Andrews, Crystal Lucelle, Nurse Crystal Lucelle, Cooper Marcus, and also to Ted Tiles for being here to answer questions. I also want to thank our intern, Miguel Mercado. He's been backstage managing this event for us, and Bailey Ward, and Mary Williams, who both are part of our Building Electrification team. So thank you everybody for coming, and we will send out the recording. I know there was a lot of information, so if you missed something, don't worry about it. It will be posted on our YouTube channel and you can watch it again. And reach out to Quick Carbon. They are there to answer your questions. Thank you everybody. Wishing you a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Super. I was just in Greece, and Greece has much smaller homes in general, but it's all and they need to work on more renewable energy production, but everything's electric. The stoves, everybody has mini splits, and in 100-degree heat, those mini splits work really, really well. I was very surprised. So, I find Greece to be really inspiring because they're really a rather poor country, comparatively speaking. And, that they have a lot more affordable, smaller appliances is so hopeful to me. And I joke with Tom Kabat,
yeah.
Yeah, I joke with him that we're going to start a smuggling business to bring those affordable, smaller appliances in to the US.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's exactly that sort of market pull I was talking about. The more folks buy these things, the market will respond by giving folks more options to buy. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Pleasure. Yep.
Good
Thanks for organizing.
Fred, good to see you. And Catherine, Vivian. Thank you, Brett.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.